Hello, all, and welcome to And Us Voices, where we gather some film friends to help us put the S in Movies and Us. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And we found that movies can be more than just entertainment, but a way to connect more deeply with others in the world around us. We absolutely love hearing thoughts from other movie watchers, our film friends. So we invited a few of them to share it with us today. In this episode, we are going to be talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, the 2003 entry into this franchise. And we are going to be answering collectively the question, what is your most treasured moment from Pirates of the Caribbean? Haha, hint, wink, wink. Pun intended. So after Sarah and I share our favorite scenes, our most treasured moment from Pirates of the Caribbean, you will hear from some film friends of ours that we've gathered together here who are gracious enough to share their treasured moments and contribute to this episode. So let's dive right in. Sarah, we had such a fun time watching this movie recently.
Oh, yes. And we had also a very fun time reviewing this movie with Britt and Hanna. That was such a blast. I feel like I laughed the entire episode. I was having so much fun. So make sure that you also go check that out because we had so much fun diving into this movie that we all absolutely loved.
That was such a fun episode, and I think we knew it was going to be awesome, but I knew it was going to be epic when we hopped on and we're doing our intros, we're sharing a little about our relationship with this film, and both of them are like obsessed with this movie, and it was really sweet to hear how pivotal it was for a lot of their like childhoods and growing up absolutely loving this and how nostalgic it was to watch this again. So that was really fun. Go listen to that episode. It's already out by the time this one goes live. But man, there's many options to choose from for great moments in this film. Sarah, what is your most treasured moment from Pirates of the Caribbean? And how did you even like think about this question? Because it's kind of a intentionally open-ended, hard question.
Yeah, when we were first coming up with this idea, two scenes initially popped up into my head. I am going to choose one. So this is not going to be the same issue. We reviewed our Jurassic Park, favorite dino moment. I have one picked. So there's that. We're improving. We're getting better.
You mean for our next And Us Voices, I shouldn't ask you, Sarah, what is your two most treasured moments?
I mean, I can always come up with more than one, but
if I give you two, you're going to pick three.
Exactly. I'm trying to stick to the prompt. We only let other people pick one, and so I'm trying to be good and pick one, even though I'm very indecisive.
But I'm just a curious cat, and I need to know what your runner-up is, but you can tell me that afterwards. That'll be exclusive content for me.
Ooh. No, I'm happy to share. I'm sure that it's going to be somebody's favorite because it's so good. But I think for me, both of the scenes that I thought of are just so incredible. But there's something about the one that I actually ended up picking that I think is so important in setting up so much of this world. The one that I'm picking is Jack Sparrow's introduction. Because it obviously introduces us to this incredible character who is the anchor for this entire franchise. We don't know anything about him, and the way that it's shot instantly creates intrigue. It tells us so much about this character through just the cinematography, and there's so much to this one little moment that I absolutely love. And most of it, he doesn't say anything. Like, we learned so much about this character just from the cinematography, the situation, and how he is responding to the situation that he's in. And I love the efficiency of that. And so, yeah, that is my most treasured moments from Pirates of the Caribbean is the intro to Jack Sparrow. He looks so regal as he's coming in, as his ship is sinking, and it's so funny, but it's also so effective in building this character.
What a great introduction to a character ever.
Right?
It's so funny. I think it also is such a representative of Jack Sparrow's just bravado and the way he approaches life. He's gonna bring whimsy. He's going to bring bravado to it all. It's gonna be larger than life and kind of this like taking life by its horns and not letting anything like get him down too much and kind of truly making lemonade out of lemons in every situation is so him. And it's also what makes him like, I think, so aspirational too. It's just like he's gonna figure it out. And even when it looks terrible, he's gonna cleverly outsmart his way out of any situation, any pickle he finds himself in, and he's gonna do it with the most flair known to man. So yeah, it's so good.
It's true. That scene is full of flair. And I
Yeah.
also love because we haven't met this character yet. And so when we first see him, he looks so regal and commanding because we don't see that he's on a sinking boat. We just see him looking so like picturesque and like the lighting behind him is absolutely beautiful. And then as the camera moves, you see that like, oh no, he looks like this on a boat that is sinking. And then you see him having to like bail water out of the boat. And then I love that you see everybody else's reaction to him as well.
Mhm.
And I think that that is also interesting and tells you a lot about this character. And he is unfazed by it. When he gets to the dock, he just steps right off of it and just walks onto the dock as if nothing went wrong, as if this was his plan the entire time. And so it just all of those little pieces are part of who he is as a character. He has that bravado, like you said, but he also just can go with the flow and is making it up as he goes along and just acts like he has a plan. And a plan will form eventually. But
Mhm.
I love that in those couple of shots, we learned so much about who he is. And then obviously that's like borne out over the rest of the film.
It's so great. And like we mentioned, the scene has a short few minutes, has 3 big beats to it. And each beat is a twist and a turn of the previous one. So he's regal. There's that shock value and surprise there. Then the camera cuts to the sinking ship. So you're like, oh no, he's going to splash and be all wet. And then, oh no, actually, the third beat is that he's got a plan. So every like element of surprise and the way I think that the camera angles allow for that surprise to hit fully and kind of play with our expectations about what's going to happen next is really fun. And it subverts what we think is going to happen, especially him stepping off perfectly timed onto the dock. I think that was this moment of like, okay, all right, he's kind of, we don't know if it's planned or not, but like he's going to take advantage of any situation that comes his way. Or he's got this plan all along. And but either way, that's both interesting to us for this character. Yeah, it's so good. This is a great choice.
Ugh,
Ah,
it's such a
iconic.
good scene. Yep.
It's so iconic.
All right. So what is yours? What is your most treasured moment? How did you interpret this open-ended prompt?
I had a couple of options top of mind that like flurried into my mind at first, but this one I just had to pick. I feel like with the dino moment and with this one, there's just a star in my mind that is shining brightly above the rest. And so my choice is the denouement scene where Will saves Jack Sparrow from being hung from the noose. And what I love about this scene, one is where it's timed because we just come off this huge, big, epic, climactic, final big set piece. And we think that the movie's over, but oh no, there's one more big emotional beat of the movie that I think is like kind of a surprise to me. I watched this again recently and I hadn't watched it for like decades. And so a lot of it was like feeling fresh and new again because I didn't remember a lot of this film. And I was surprised, like, oh, what a treat. We get a whole nother big set piece that gets to happen and one more emotional beat for the characters. I think visually there's a lot of playfulness in this ending sequence that I think is also really fun. We get the, very serious like pirates and Royal Navy fighting sequences earlier in the film, but there's a larger than life playfulness in this ending sequence that feels like it's just the movie having a good time and leaving us on this fun, lighthearted final moment. So we get to see Will somehow throwing his sword perfectly at the angle for Jack to be balancing on the sword when the nooses around his neck. There's some really great camera work with a side angle shot of Jack Sparrow's little feet like slipping on the sword and trying to balance. And then we get the next big set piece with Orlando Bloom and Johnny Depp like somersaulting in unison and tripping the Royal Navy soldiers with rope. And I just kind of love how big and over the top and playful and almost cartoonish this whole sequence is. Then, obviously, pacing wise, we get the moment of tension where all of the soldiers are pointing their weapons at them. And so there's this moment of pause and everything comes to a screeching halt. And there's this conversation, Elizabeth comes in. And I love that this scene for me ends with Jack's fall into the ocean. Like, this is a character over the course of this movie that is kind of unpredictable. He's a loose cannon, and we haven't, even by the end of this film, really placed him quite yet. And I feel like the unknown of what this character is going to do now is still so present, even by the end of the movie. We have no idea if he's going to weasel this way out of here, if he's going to help save them. Is he going to self preserve or is he going to be altruistic? We have no idea. And so his trip and fall into the ocean feels right for still keeping that kind of unresolved for us of who is Jack Sparrow really. And so I think that was a really great exclamation point for that character too. In his final moments, he's reunited with the Black Coral, so we get the catharsis of that. But what were his intentions all along? We actually still don't know really. And I love the ambiguity of that. So this ending denouement sequence felt like such a treat. It's something that I didn't expect to see because I thought that the movie was kind of over and we're going to get the like warm fuzzies at the end, but we get a whole extra bonus sequence that actually I feel like makes the whole movie stronger, especially when we think about the relationship between Will Turner and Jack Sparrow. Like there's a lot there that this scene actually adds to thematically the rest of the film and continuing to keep us guessing with Jack Sparrow. So yes, final ending sequence when Will saves Jack from the noose.
It's such a good pick. And I think it really effectively highlights like the bromance between them too. Like obviously there is the romantic moment between Will and Elizabeth, but that's not the focus of the scene. That is almost like a byproduct of it. The focus is Will is saving his dude. Like he's got to get his guy. And one detail about the scene that I really love is how you see Mr. Cotton's parrot a few times throughout. And that is such a good indicator of like, there's something else going on here. Like Jack may not be the one with the plan, but Will has a plan and everybody else has a plan too. And so people are working. There's something going on here. And Jack also sees it. He doesn't know what's going on, but when he sees that parrot, he's like, okay, something is afoot. I need to be ready to move. So I love that you see that parrot pop up a few times. And we as the audience know, okay, the crew is nearby. We don't know where. We don't know when we will see them, but they're going to come up somehow. So I also love those little visual cues that we see as well, that we know that there's something deeper going on here. And we're just on the edge of our seat waiting to see when they show up, because that's kind of a big deal to have your whole crew waiting somewhere. We just don't know when they show up. And then obviously it's so perfect for Jack Sparrow as a character that we see him go over the wall and into the water and they're like, oh, he's the worst pirate that you've ever seen. And then you see the Black Pearl coming around the corner. It's like, nope. Maybe he's not the worst pirate. Maybe he's actually the best pirate. We don't know. It could go either way. So it's still creating that intrigue for the character too.
Yeah. There's so much emotional catharsis, like for Jack Sparrow too. He's in a previous scene shared and voiced with Elizabeth that the Black Pearl represents freedom for him, and it's so dramatic. But there's a warmth and a tenderness he has for like his ship, and the adventures he's had on the ship. And so to be reunited with it feels so satisfying, knowing where he was and kind of the pickle he found himself in at the beginning of the movie. There's also just this really great emotional catharsis of seeing Will Turner show up for his person and to like fight for goodness, like the like overly dramatic line of like, no, but he's a good man, and it's so dramatic, but it's also so heartwarming and it's got so much like earnestness in him, which is very fitting for that character that is such a do-gooder and maybe his triumph in that scene is like having the bravery and the courage to fight for what he believes in and not just yield to the system and yield to the Royal Navy and the powers that be and this hierarchical society. Like he is fighting for what he believes in. And we love to see it. And so there's just so many moments of emotional catharsis, I think, for all of these characters in this scene. And it kind of leaves us after the movie's over with just the warm fuzzies and just the right amount of warm fuzzies. So good.
Yeah, that moment of rebellion is a sign of growth for Will, which is, it feels kind of like counterintuitive, but yeah, that is exactly what that is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. So great 2 moments. We've added 2 great treasures to our little treasure box, and we're about to add more medallions into this big chest. So we can't wait to hear what other people have picked. Thank you to everyone. We're just so excited, just curious, honestly, to hear what moments that people pick. I love that this one's so open-ended. Like it's not what's the most thrilling, because maybe the most treasured moment is a high action sequence or it's this really tender character moment and everything in between. So we're excited to hear what people have picked, and we're going to play the first segment next.
Hi, this is Klarissa over at I've Seen That One. Thank you so much to Jen and Sarah at Movies and Us for inviting me to send a little sound clip of my most treasured moment in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Oh my goodness. Well, first off, this whole movie is a treasure. Let's be real. I absolutely loved rewatching this movie in prep for this prompt. But I have to say, one of my most treasured moments in the whole film is when Jack Sparrow and Barbossa are having this amazing, epic last sword fight. Jack Sparrow is the also cursed dead since he took his coin back and he's playing around with the coin on his like bony knuckles. But my favorite part and like the most treasured part to me at that moment is when they are fighting. He uses like Jack Sparrow uses his shot. Barbossa kind of riffs with him about it and says, "Oh wow, you've saved that shot and now you're going to waste it." But then we see super epic Will Turner with the 2 coins, and he's like, "He didn't." I think that's what he says exactly, is like, "He didn't." And he drops the coins, and it's that slow motion, and then the like tinkle sound of the crashing metal as the coins fall. It is just so epic. It's so fun. I remember as a kid seeing that for the first time when we saw it at the drive-in. It's just always been so epic and perfect, and one of those moments where you never really know if Jack Sparrow and Will Turner are on the same team or if one of them is gonna betray the other or if Jack Sparrow's being sneaky, but it's just one of those moments where it's like, they are on the same team, they played it together, they played it so well. So yes, that is my most treasured moment. Thank you so much, I'm excited to hear everyone else's as well.
Hey, Movies and Us listeners. My name is Caitlin, and I'm the host of Watched It, the show about shows in collaboration with my bestie, Jackie. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can follow us on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok at Watched It Pod. I'm so happy that Jen and Sarah have revisited the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie because it was the very first movie I became super obsessed with when I was younger. I've probably seen this movie upwards of 50 times at this point in my life. I know every inflection of every line and all the comedic beats. And even though my memory in general is pretty bad, each time I start rewatching this movie, every tiny detail comes back to me and fills me with incredible nostalgia. Of course, it's hard to choose just one moment to talk about, but I'm going to choose a badass Elizabeth moment, of which there are many. I adore the character of Elizabeth Swann. I think she's so intelligent, so fierce. She can defend herself and navigate tough situations with courage and grit, and I just love her. My most treasured Elizabeth moment is towards the beginning of the movie when she's invoked the right of parley with Captain Barbossa and gets taken to his ship. She has Will's medallion with her in the form of a necklace, and she knows the pirates want it, so she uses it to negotiate the ceasefire of violence in Port Royal. Captain Barbossa pretends that it's not of value to him, so as she's dangling it above the water, she lets it drop just a tiny bit as if she's about to toss it away, and all the pirates react in shock. Elizabeth then smiles in the most self-assured, condescending way, and that moment is just chef's kiss to me. I love how she knew exactly how to manipulate these men, so that iconic smile is a treasure for me. I will also give a special shout out to basically every time Elizabeth and Will interact because I love a good period piece, yearning love story. I love how smitten Will is with Elizabeth and how much she is into him, and the chemistry is phenomenal. Actually, in the scene I just mentioned, Elizabeth then says her last name is Turner instead of Swan, which is mostly because she doesn't want the pirates to know exactly who she is. But I think there's part of her that says it because she wants to be Mrs. Turner one day, and I think that's super cute. Thanks for letting me share my most treasured moment with you.
Hi there, I'm Britt from 1001 by 1, and I was asked by the wonderful Jen and Sarah Movies and Us to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean again. Now, I have gone on record stating that this is one of the most perfect blockbusters available, and I absolutely stand by that sentiment. It is no surprise that I am a huge fan of this film. I think Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl is one of those lightning in a bottle type films. They had the right cast, they had the right crew, and the movie worked despite itself. The world didn't ask for an action-adventure pirate film based on a Disney ride, but damn, it really works. And I think that there is one scene in particular that perfectly shows off how successful this movie is. And the scene I want to highlight today is the ending cave battle between Jack and Barbossa / the pirates on the ships, like, because it goes back and forth. Now, I remember seeing this in the cinema, and I was just blown away by how cool this fight looked. The choreography is so stylish while managing to have stakes. I think it's a really great example of how choreography enhances the story when it's done well. This was accompanied by really great editing. We have a clear idea of the cave's layout, and we have a clear idea of the ship's layouts, so we can follow the action and we can anticipate where people might go next. They don't ever break the laws of this world that they created in order to create a fun gag. Everything's already been established and set up, so the payoff is just wildly successful. In my opinion, the star of the show is the near-perfect blend of practical effects, practical sets, and CGI effects as Jack and Barbossa dance between the pockets of moonlight scattered across the cave. The lighting is so good in these scenes. It just enhances the CGI skeletons, which is not an easy thing to do. And, think about it. This was 2002, 2003. It's so exciting to see them go from fleshy humans to emaciated skeletons. And while there is an over-the-top aspect to the skeletal designs, I think that it totally works in this world that Pirates has built over the course of the film. The practical effects also react to the CGI effects, which is something that I think we've just kind of lost in modern films. When an actor puts a CGI skeleton into a drawer, the physical drawer starts to shake, and it adds this sense of realism that allows the audience to accept that skeletons exist in this world, and that this disembodied hand could actually articulate after being severed from its body. I just think it's that kind of attention to detail through this entire sequence, as well as the entire film, that solidifies this as one of the most fun films you will ever find yourself watching. And if you'd like to hear any more of my weird takes on films, you can find my show 1001 by 1 wherever you stream podcasts. We take movies out of the book, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. We analyze them, we discuss them, and then we decide whether or not we think they should be in the book. I do that with my friends Adam and Joey, and we are available at 1001 by 1 on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. We love talking about films, so come on over and let us know what you think. You can also find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Britsby Hobnob, where I mostly just talk about anime and board games. So if that seems like fun, come say hi. And thank you so much for having me on the show, Movies and Us. This is one of my favorite shows out there, and I'm just so thankful that I get to be a part of it. So thank you so much.
Hi. I'm Hannah from Horror Hour with the Hannas podcast, where my husband, Matt Hanna, and I discuss all of your favorite and least favorite horror movies. You may also know me as Pirates of the Caribbean's biggest fan. Or at least I was in elementary school. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl is a near-perfect film in my opinion, but there is one moment in this film that I treasure above all else. Before I get into it though, one thing you should know about me is that I absolutely adore the character of Captain Barbossa. A huge part of that is Jeffrey Rush's amazing performance. I feel like he has consistent, amazing delivery, and the character design is excellent. I literally teared up in theaters at age 10 when he reappeared at the end of Dead Man's Chest because I was that excited. Another thing you should know about me is that young me felt incredibly seen by the character of Elizabeth Swann. Not only is my middle name Elizabeth, which is a family name, but I've always been inspired by a strong, clever woman, which Elizabeth surely is. So all that being said, it's unsurprising that my most treasured moment in the entire film is a scene with both of these iconic characters, and it is when Elizabeth learns of the curse. In this conversation, Elizabeth begins to fear that Barbossa is trying to poison her with apples, which is fun in its own right, and she runs from him, where she encounters the rest of the crew in skeletal form. I've always enjoyed this scene because it is not only the first big reveal that they're dead, but it's also such a well-made scene. The lighting is excellent, the music's incredible, and so is the imagery. I will never forget the image of skeletal Barbossa drinking wine and that wine pouring through his skeleton. Even better is the scripted dialogue. While Barbossa and Elizabeth are having their private conversation, she indicates that she doesn't believe in ghost stories and isn't really buying what he's selling about the curse. But as the scene goes on, Barbossa explains the consequences of the curse, how he is no longer able to feel, which makes the crew's plight incredibly sympathetic. But of course, the scene ends with the most perfect piece of dialogue in my opinion, saying, "You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one." It is one of my all-time favorite line deliveries from any movie ever. As an adult, there are a number of scenes that I think are incredibly well written and choreographed, especially that cave sequence at the end, but this scene will always have my heart. Between, like I said, the dialogue, the delivery of the dialogue, the music, and overall the imagery and this big reveal. This is a movie that I could go on and on and on about, but luckily I already got a chance to talk about it with Jen and Sarah, so I will keep it brief for now. If you are interested in hearing us talk about other films, you can definitely check out our show, Horror Hour with the Hannas, anywhere podcasts can be found. We also post to TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube where you can find additional content. Thanks for listening to me talk about my favorite ghost story.
Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of And Us Voices. And a big thank you to everyone that contributed their most treasured moment. We've got all of our little gold shining coins together here in a little circle. Thank you to Klarissa from I've Seen That One, Caitlin from Watched It podcast, Britt from the 1001 by 1 podcast, and Hanna from Horror Hour with the Hannas podcast for contributing to this episode of And Us Voices. Be sure to check out the show notes of this episode to see how you can connect with each of them. Just such an amazing crew of ladies. Oh my gosh, we are so honored and so grateful that they have contributed to today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review letting us know what your most treasured moment from Pirates of the Caribbean is. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at MoviesInUsPod or on our website, andusmedia.co. Keep an eye on this feed. We'll be back soon with a Movies Nest review. We're throwing it back to 2003 again. And we're going to be talking about The Last Samurai. This will be exciting. Sarah and I haven't seen this movie before, so we're excited to dive in and see what it's all about. All right. Well, we hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.